Okay, we're recording.
Welcome, Maximilian, to the Nootralize podcast once again.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. We've actually had like half of our meeting today because there was some confidential information that we couldn't share with our listeners regarding the systematic review that we may or may not be conducting in the future on the randomized control trials of possibly up to 50 droppings. We haven't really decided how we're going to constrain the scope of the review. So we've already been talking some today. So what's next on the agenda?
It is the question or the thing that we were discussing right before start recording. Like how because all the question is, the recurring question is, how do we verify the idea, our idea, as quick as possible? Because like it is an investment of time and money to work on this idea, while it's like and at this point we don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, we believe it's going to work,
right?
Otherwise we wouldn't be working on it. But we need also to we need to verify that it is working,
right?
Or that we can make a business out of it. Basically, I think it's like I'm convinced that it's going to work for you and me, and like we can make the most amazing product for just you and me for sure.
Right.
But the one thing we have to verify is that, okay, can we actually make a business out of this? Are there other people like you and me that are gonna have use of this product?
Right.
So basically, how do we spend our time at this, like in every moment, to achieve that?
Yeah. I mean, we're probably like the perfect persona as regards our target audience. Like, we are the type of person who we expect to want to use our application. Like, we self-experiment, we care about our performance, our well-being, and want to investigate the science of ourselves to get to know our bodies and our minds better, so that we can, in the long term, really enhance our cognitive performance and well-being. And I believe that that group of people, like the subset of people that have that philosophy and those goals, that subset of people is growing in the world currently.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, there's probably going to be some variation as regards what people are interested in relative to what we think that they are interested in. We're probably not going to hit the nail on its head on the first try as regards the contents of our application and the features.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely need to verify that what we're doing is what people are interested in. And that means trying to quickly get the core features out so that people can give us feedback on it.
Yeah, I guess that's like, those are the two things. Like we need to build a minimum viable product, basically. Like the least amount of software, or the least amount of work we can put in that will actually amount to this core feature. And then we need that feedback. Like we need people people that can try out the application or try out those features and say, this is amazing or this sucks, or
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
And so we were talking earlier about how we could do that efficiently.
Yeah.
And since you're the only efficient software developer and web app developer, we're really bound by the amount of time that you put in, like how much you can get done.
Yeah, for sure.
And as you mentioned yesterday, I'm not sure if it was on the podcast or off the podcast, but you mentioned yesterday that you have like 1 or 2 months of work planned already.
Yeah, stuff like that, I would say.
Yeah. So the question is really, what should I be doing to efficiently help us achieve the goal of getting feedback from users on this logging feature that you are currently developing?
And I think, or you have already done like a huge amount of that work, like building or like the publishing articles through mediums and videos and podcasts, because that is like a steady stream of users into the application,
Right.
or into Nootralize, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess the question, I mean, is there more work we can do there, or is it sufficient?
Right. Well, I do think that like the more users we have at the time of releasing any feature, the less time we will have to wait before we have sufficient feedback to go forward with the next iteration. So, and of course, like we want a lot of users in our application so that we can help a lot of people to enhance their cognitive performance and well-being. So the marketing aspect of it, it's something that I don't think that we, like if we can, of course, we want more users. But the question is really how should we, or how should I guess, spend my time to efficiently achieve that?
Yeah. It's I mean, it's not an easy question, right?
Right. And the systematic review would lay a solid base, a solid ground for the marketing really, because we'd always have a scientific work to reference when we are talking about what we have done as regards to the methodology of a recommendation engine, and also what we will be doing with the logging feature. So conducting a systematic review would boost the public perception of the scientificness of what we're doing, which is something that we are looking for. And it will also, in fact, boost the scientificness of what we are doing through helping us in a more systematic manner analyze the data from the studies and selecting the studies as well in a more systematic manner, but also to analyze our analysis of the data. So essentially, everything would become more systematic and scientific if we were to conduct a systematic review and meta-analysis, which in long term is a very important thing for the marketing and amount of users that I believe that will be getting per invested hour of marketing the product. Like if we have solid science backing up our marketing claims, then we'll probably have to spend less time to get the same amount of users in comparison with claims that are less science-backed.
But I guess that's assuming that what people are looking for is this scientificness.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a bit. I feel like I guess I would go into like the if I would talk to a group of people which are users of supplements or nootropics, I would assume that they're interested in the science of it.
Right.
But so far, the people that I've been talking to, I've had mixed results with that, to say the least.
So what else have they been interested in?
Well, I mean, it seems like it's more of a like branding, I think.
Okay.
Like is it the supplements, are they, or this that supplement they're taking, is that brand kind of selling a lifestyle, or what are they actually, like how are they promoting that product?
Right. Yeah.
So it's I'm not sure, because our idea is like the way we want to sell Nootralize, at least, is that we want to help people by making better choices.
Yeah. I want to help them make their choices.
Yeah, help them make better choices with how to use supplements or nootropics. And perhaps that target group, or the people that are going to be attracted to that, are those who are actually interested in like the scientificness. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily true.
Right. Okay. So let's just play with the idea that we would focus a bit more on the lifestyle branding aspect of compounds. Like, what would that look like? And could we do that in a way that's, could we even do that in a way that's authentic to ourselves, which is one of our values? Because to me, like in my mind, oftentimes these brands selling lifestyles use the lifestyle argument. Like, I'm not saying this is always the case, but sometimes they use the lifestyle argument because they don't have enough science to back up the evidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think that's the case. Like a lot of times, like the one example, I'm not gonna shit on that product, because I think I mean I've used it myself. But talking about this Swedish company called Nocco, they're selling this like caffeinated drink with BCAA in it, which, from what I've heard, scientifically has no like proven effect on your performance, like the BCAA. Then, not the caffeine, I think it has an effect on your performance in the gym, but the BCAA has no effect at all. But they're selling this lifestyle of like being like active, fit, whatever, and they're insanely successful.
Yeah, they are.
So
And
they've made that brand, like, or they're selling their products, or they have no like scientific backup.
yeah, and they don't even make any scientific claims, at least not in my, like, the interactions I've had with the brand haven't included any scientific claims at all from them. And of course, they are in every supermarket in Stockholm, I'd say probably.
But what I'm saying is, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say what you're saying regarding BCA is largely true. They have seen that does help long distance runners retain muscle if they lack, if they are really fatiguing themselves, then supplementing with BCAAs could help preserve muscles in really extreme conditions, really. But for the average user of the knuckle products, and for the average person having a lifestyle that they are branding themselves as producing a product for, I would say that BCAAs are probably useless.
Yeah, but I think it's not like it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, that just because you're selling a lifestyle, you can't have your product scientifically backed.
Right.
Like I think that's the way you should go about it. Like, try to make something that, like, you want something that works, and then you can think about, okay, can we make a lifestyle kind of brand out of this?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So how would we, in some way, integrate this into our application?
Well, let's say we want to sell that like lifestyle of improving yourself, or yeah, let's say that's the idea we want to sell. Like, you want to improve yourself,
right?
And you're trying to live that, and then of course, like, we're gonna have to prove that our product is actually useful for doing that. But we could, like, instead of talking only about the science in whatever channels we are communicating through, we'll also talk about like success cases.
Yeah, we could definitely do that in the future. I don't think that necessarily is contrary to scientific accuracy.
No, not at all.
But we do need real success cases for that to be a strategy of ours.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in that example, yes, we would have to have that, yeah. But I think just thinking in those terms, like, how can we make this? Do we necessarily have to make Nootralize the brand like purely about the science? Can we like form it into a lifestyle kind of branding also?
Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what we should aim for as well. Like, through science, one Nootralize or a Nootralize user wants to, like, the prototypical, the average Nootralize user will, through science, through experimentation, enhance their cognitive performance and well-being. So yeah, it is a lifestyle of enhancing yourself, enhancing your cognitive performance and well-being. It isn't only trying to look at the science, there's also the judgment that based on the science, we want to make the right decisions to perform better and feel better.
So yeah, so if we can merge those together beautifully, what kind of target audience would we aim for? Or like, what kind of audiences would we attract with that kind of branding? Like a beautiful melt between the scientificness and the improvement lifestyle.
Yeah, like a symbiosis.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of the self-improvement, I guess, project is to use what works, and the method that is used for figuring out what works and what doesn't is science. So science is inherently an aspect of self-improvement. So I don't think that we necessarily have to blend them, because self-improvement requires science. Like, it's part of the process of self-improvement if you're doing it right. Like, you're not actually improving yourself if you're using supplements blindly based on the lifestyle branding of a company.
Mm. But I mean, you could still have the illusion, or
Yeah,
you feel it.
but removing illusions is also part of the self-improvement project. Like, get into some sort of truth.
Mm.
And removing imperfections really is part of improving how you perform and how you feel.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'd argue that science is inherent to self-improvement.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would still say, I mean, I'm just thinking of like where I started my journey
Right.
of trying to improve who I am.
Mm.
Like it's not like I started off with trying to figure out what is the most effective way. Or yeah, okay, for sure I did that, but it was crude and inaccurate and approximations. I mean,
Yeah.
it is all approximations, but it was kind of poorly done, but was still, it started my journey, or it put me on that path.
Mm. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that we should try to create content, so marketing content that's not solely evidence focused. Like, we should also try to focus on content that is easier to understand and interpret, and can engage people in the lifestyle of improving themselves.
I mean, I guess I think we should try, or let's think about like, what is it that we actually want to achieve? Like, right?
Mm.
Like, we want to help people feel better and
Right.
take better choices. And perhaps one way of doing that is opening like people that aren't practicing any like healthy habits at all. Can they find a way into that space through Nootralize?
Yeah.
Or is that a lost cause for us?
Right. Well, the hope would be, of course, as we develop this logging feature, a lot of people use it, and a lot of people who have tried to adopt healthy habits but haven't succeeded, and have gone back to their unhealthy habits and patterns. They can see that users of the Nootralize app have succeeded through using, like, let's say, caffeine in a very specific manner to or maybe nicotine is a better example, like adopting very specific habits through a very deliberate use of nicotine.
Mm.
I know that there are lots of anecdotes online of people using nicotine, for example, to adopt new habits as regards their morning routine. And for example, like reading 30 minutes every day, they've used nicotine to establish that pattern. And that has helped them to actually establish a habit. And so using nootropics in very specific, deliberate manners can, I suspect, help people who have had trouble to establish habits and patterns to actually establish these habits and patterns. And I believe that gathering the evidence and gathering a lot of data regarding how different dosing regimens and different moderating variables influence results, that will lead us to be able to make conclusions which we can use in our marketing through, for example, what I said. Let's say that we gather a lot of evidence on using nicotine for establishing a reading habit.
That excites me so much, seriously.
Huh?
That idea excites me so much, seriously.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so let's say that people take this test of like they create a log book, let's say, like a test measure, which is what we call a specific sort of something that you're logging in the Nootralize app. The user creates a test measure for how easy it felt for them to sit down and read for 30 minutes.
Or how long they could read before they got too distracted.
Right. Yeah. And so they enter this data every day.
Yeah.
And then they try using nicotine patches, 1 milligram every morning, 10 minutes before they start reading. I'm not sure how long it takes before they become active because I've never tried them. But they use nicotine in order to be able to establish this habit of reading. And then they log how it works for them. Then a lot of people do this. And we can show this data to our users. Then users of our application can see, okay, well, I want to establish a reading habit. And this topic has helped a lot of other people doing that. So why don't I try it?
I mean, that single piece of information, I think, would be insanely valuable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that would be useful for me. Like, I'm excited now to try nicotine.
Yeah. You gotta be careful with like the route of administration, though, so that you don't use something that's cancerogenic.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
But yeah, I think that if we gather a lot of data, then we will be able to use these sort of patterns that may arise in the data in our marketing, which could then be like very practical and actionable, so that someone reading an article could see, okay, 5,000 people use nicotine patches for a month and tried to read a book.
And they increased.
In comparison with 5,000 people who didn't use anything, or in comparison with their own performance on this, trying to read for 30 minutes every day, they performed this much better. And maybe we can even guide them somehow on how to implement this experiment for themselves in our application through the article. That will, of course, be very practically actionable. And this sort of self-experimentation then, and actually gathering data on yourself to see what works and what doesn't, I think that could definitely become a lifestyle. Yeah.
Like, imagine if I had run into Nootralize when I was in uni. like being able to study like hard.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy on there how to use nicotine to stay focused.
Right.
Or even now, I mean, for sure it's useful now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this kind of branding makes me excited.
Yeah. And it is evidence-based. Like the principles of this sort of branding they are evidence-based.
Yes.
We do need quite a bit of data to get there, which means we need to get the logging feature out there. And I'm not sure what the conclusion would be for how I should move forward at this point in time. As regards what I should spend my time on, whether or not I should conduct a systematic review on the science, like the randomized controlled trials then, of the nootropics, and how I should, if I do that, restrict the scope of the systematic review. But to me, it sounds like we're both optimistic about the potential for evidence-based self-experimentation as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that we could use in our marketing and something that a lot of people could want to engage in. So seeing that as what we're trying to go for, I think that conducting a systematic review, like it would indeed lay a solid ground, a solid base for what the evidence is for different nootropics and their efficacy for specific situations, which would help users to get a hunch of where they should start their own self-experimentation. Like that's what our recommendation engine is for, right?
Right.
Yeah, or if we make the recommendation engine really slim and evidence-backed, then we can help people efficiently start this lifestyle of self-experimentation and evidence-backed self-experimentation. So I do think that it is aligned with our goals to conduct a systematic review of all of these randomized controlled trials.
So what do you think about like, I'm thinking, how can we validate that branding?
Jag vill bara säga, jag har lunch med Netflix, så jag kommer kanske behöva om lite.
Okay. How could we validate that branding? Like, how? Like, let's say we analyze the content that we pushed so far, the content like the articles you've been writing, the podcasts, and see which of them has gained most attention. Like,
we could do that. And I guess Psychology Today would be like the largest data set used.
Yeah. Because
So
wouldn't that be like that would be
but
like a way of verifying.
Yeah, sure, like a way of verifying, yes, but I do think that there's a better source for us to draw upon, and that would be the Reddit of nootropics, like the subreddit. There are a lot of users on that Reddit, of course, and they
but
are.
I'm thinking that perhaps like the nootropics Reddit, for sure there are people, like people hanging out there. They are already into this like evidence-based stuff, right?
Yeah. That's
Now,
true.
I was thinking like, can we? What would be? What channel would be? Would have the biggest variation in what kind of personas are interacting with our brand?
Yeah, that would probably be Psychology Today.
Or is it like probably? Yeah, perhaps. Because like, where have we gained the most exposure, like the biggest exposure to the biggest variety of personas? Perhaps that is Psychology Today, or is it Medium? Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we have a lot more data though for the Psychology Today article, and what we do have there is like the 5 most science-backed cognitive enhancers for mindfulness, 60,000 views.
How much?
60,000.
60,000. That's a lot.
Yeah. And then five science-backed nootropics for improving mood, 30,000. The 5 most science-backed nootropics for energy, 4,600. How I recovered from depression and anhedonia has 13,500 views. How to use nootropics for social interactions has 35,500 views. This one is a big one. You're using caffeine the wrong way, 95,600.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that number. So
yeah.
I think that like that headline, I think says like that's an attractive headline, I think, or a title. And I think it attracts a lot of like a huge variety of people.
Yeah, I agree. But what I did do in the article, and I suspect that a large part of the reason why it was so popular was because of the content in the article, not only the title.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What I did in the article was I stepped through some very basic and high-level statistics on the use of caffeine in society, and also the effects, and specifically the diminishing effects of caffeine as you use it over time, and how it is actually a drug that you build tolerance to. So yeah, this is a topic which has a broader audience. Of course, caffeine is much more used than the average nootropic.
Yeah. Like, could we categorize that article in some way? Like, is that article more of a lifestyle, like towards that lifestyle branding? Or is it very, like, is it science, purely evidence science kind of article?
I'd say it's a good merge of both.
See?
Yeah. And that's the sort of, like, I'd say that it's very, like, the distribution of science versus lifestyle in this article, like the percentage is similar to what I suggested earlier that we could do with nicotine. If we find that it has, like, there is evidence to support the efficacy of nicotine in establishing a reading habit, then we could use that evidence. We could lay out that evidence in an article and include like a more humane aspect of, okay, how do you actually implement this in your life? And then maybe step by step go through how you may use the device application in your life to evaluate whether this intervention works for you or not. So a mix of both, right? And that is not what the systematic review would be. Like, the systematic review would largely be it would be maybe 95% science and 5% lifestyle in comparison.
I just gotta cut in with some practicalities at this point, because I know my roommate is gonna have need the room soon. So I think perhaps we should wrap this up, but we can continue the conversation off camera.
Sure. Yeah.
This has been a very interesting conversation, I think, on efficacy, verifying, branding.
Right. Yeah. I agree. So shall we say goodbye for this time to our dear listeners then?
I think we should. So thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Have a good time. Until next time. Goodbye.
See ya.